Good evening, everybody. After almost more than 1 month, so today is the first day we're going to start the Buddhist science and psychology. So some of you totally new about this class. Most of you have been attending the class for quite a long time. So whatever, I really appreciate, I rejoice your effort for attending the Dharma class. Every day when we study Dharma, doesn't matter which text we study, we must only think whatever I study, whatever I practice Dharma, only for happiness. If you always think my study, my practice only for achieve happiness, then you will achieve more or less happiness. If you don't know why you have been practice of Dharma, you put a lot of effort, but at the end, you cannot get anything. Therefore, please make sure you must realize the purpose of study, purpose of practice of Dharma. The practice Dharma is actually quite simple, but we don't know how to study, how to practice. All Dharma practice, there are so many kinds of practices. All practice we can include. We can only categorize two types, which is practice of wisdom, practice of compassion. If we practice only compassion, if we practice only the methods part, you cannot be truly happy, you cannot achieve ultimate happiness. Likewise, if you practice only wisdom, if you practice only impermanence, emptiness, as also you cannot be completely happy, you cannot achieve ultimate happiness. In order to be happy, in order to achieve happiness and ultimate happiness, we must practice two of them, which is methods and wisdom. The wisdom and methods is look like, two wings of the bird. When the bird is very small, very tiny, like a bird, a tiny baby, it has a small, tiny two wings. But the bird cannot fly. When the wing grow bigger, then the bird can fly a bit more. If the wing fully grow, completely grow, then the bird can fly for long distance. We all like, tiny baby bird. We have a, very tiny, small wisdom and methods. Therefore, at the beginning, as a beginner, you should not think, I can fly for long distance. Even though you should not think I can fly, if you try, you can roll over, right? You cannot fly. Therefore, as a beginner, as an immature practitioner, if you have a high expectation to gain high realization, it is totally unrealistic expectation. You cannot gain anything. Instead of gaining something, you will have a lot of negative thoughts. You have a disappointment. You don't like Dharma. You don't like the practice of Dharma because you have your expectation so high. Your ability, your energy is very small, like a small baby bird. There's no doubt, there's no any argument between, the Theravada tradition and Mahayana tradition. Both they say we need to practice, we must practice wisdom and methods. So now, we have been, this class on Tuesday class is class for Buddhist science and psychology. Why we have to study Buddhist science and psychology? If we don't study what things we are missing, why it is so important? One time, His Holiness Dalai Lama was in Japan. So His Holiness explained, give a teaching about Heart Sutra. Then he explained extensively about the Four Noble Truths, 12 independence, 5 aggregates, 12 sources, then particularly emptiness for a few days. At the end, one of the Japanese master, very famous master, asked Dalai Lama, do we really need to study all of them in order to practice Dharma? His Holiness said, yes, we must. Also, we should not think, I no need to practice, the Buddhist science psychology, tenets, lamrim, man and mental factor. We must study, but extensive, simply, the medium is depend on your wisdom, depend on your capacity. Somehow we must practice. If you don't want to be truly happy person, if you don't want to wish to achieve the ultimate happiness, then you no need to practice, right? So everybody wish to be happy every day, wish to achieve ultimate happiness, because we totally fed up, we totally hate, the suffering and samsara. Therefore, everybody wish to be happy, wish to achieve happiness. Therefore, we need to practice like foundation, like a foundation, Buddhist science and psychology. When we study Buddhist science, you become more aware about the reality and truth. When we study psychology, then we will have a perfect understanding, perfect awareness about our mind. Otherwise, we have a lot of confusion, which is compassion, which is attachment, which is love, which is tolerance, which is kindness. We have a lot of confusion. Therefore, in order to dispel all the confusions, we need to practice psychology. In order to become more closer to the reality, we need to study Buddhist science. In the past, we study many different subjects, and also we begin to study about phenomena, right? Phenomena. Now, without looking at your book, you just try to remember or try to recall about the phenomena. According to Buddhist tradition, according to Buddhism, everything we name as a phenomena, we name as a dharma. All phenomena is a dharma. All dharmas are the phenomena, is a synonymous. So there's a few synonymous with the dharma. Dharma, object of knowledge. Then do you remember what are they? Object of knowledge, existent, existent, attainable object. That means when you read a book, when you read a dharma book, sometimes you say object of knowledge, sometimes say phenomena, sometimes say object of awareness. Then you have a confusion. But everything is like all of them synonymous, different name. Then the phenomena, all phenomena, there's so many types, so many kinds. It's a countless phenomena, but we can categorize into two. Right? All phenomena we can put into two groups. What are they? Impermanent and permanent. Impermanent and permanent. Clear? So why some phenomena be permanent? Why some permanent being impermanent? Why? Yeah, cause and effect, subject to change. That means, let's say, this book, this book is impermanent. That means some phenomena can only be permanent, some phenomena only be impermanent. Someone be permanent because it exists, it is there, but it doesn't arise. The phenomena is there, it doesn't have any causes and condition, it's there. Therefore, it's not changing. It's there, but it cannot change. It cannot change because it doesn't have its own causes and condition. Therefore, we call permanent. That permanent, impermanent, differentiate based on having its own causes and condition. Permanent, impermanent. Then permanent phenomena we can divide into two types. What are they? Based on the books? No, permanent. Permanent has two types. What are they? Permanent, occasional permanent. Right? Let's say permanent has two types. Some permanent phenomena is occasionally exists, not exists everywhere all the time. Right? We call occasionally permanent. The some permanent is exists every time, everywhere. What we call? We name eternal permanent. Right? For example, space. Space is a permanent. It is permanent all the time, everywhere. Right? Then certain space, for example, space of this house, space of this cup, eastern space, the western space, the northern space, the middle space. The eastern space is permanent, but it's not permanent everywhere. The eastern space does not exist in the west. The western space does not exist in the east. That means it is permanent, not permanent everywhere all the time. For example, this space of this house. This house is the basis. It has a space. A space not talking about empty between this wall and other wall. There's a definition of the space. When this house exists, the space is exists. When the house is destroyed, removed, then we don't call anymore the space of this house. Permanent has two types. Then impermanent has how many types? We can divide into 3. Impermanent, we can divide into 3. Do you remember? What are they? Yeah, consciousness. First we can say form, non-static formation, consciousness. Okay? Form. Then consciousness, non-static formation, non-static formation, then consciousness. This means the phenomena. Okay, the phenomena. Phenomena can be anything, like permanent, impermanent, good, bad, big, small, everything we call phenomena. The phenomena which is being impermanent has only 3 types. Right? 3 types. What are they? Form, non-static formation, consciousness. Only 3. Without include into 3, there isn't any impermanent phenomena. Clear? Okay, what are the synonyms of the impermanent phenomena? Production, impermanence, functional phenomena, condition, cause, condition, those are synonymous. For example, this book is condition phenomena. Clear? This book is condition phenomena because it is depend on causes and condition. This book arise, exists, depend on causes and condition. Therefore, we call condition phenomena. This book is condition phenomena. This book is impermanent as well. Impermanent. Is this book impermanent or permanent? This book is impermanent. Right? Why this book is impermanent? Because it is depend on cause and condition. When the cause change, the book can change. When the book's condition change, the book change. For example, simple logic, simple experience. If you don't drink water in Singapore, weather is very hot. If you don't drink water for 3 days, what will happen? Your face become very dry, your body become very dry. If face totally will change. Why this body has changed? The causes and condition of the body has changed. That's why the body can change. Right? Therefore, this book is impermanent because it's changing momentarily. It's changing moment by moment. If you really think closely, when you really meditate on impermanence of the book, that means you are look like sitting in the space shelter, right? The space shelter. When you sit on the space, it's so fast. That means our life is changing so fastly, but we don't realize. When you really think how your life is changing, how your family, brother and sister, everything is changing, then you feel scared. Also, there's no really time to attach on it. Everything is changing momentarily. Impermanence, condition, impermanence. Then third one, cause, effect. The book is condition phenomena. The book is impermanent. The book is cause. Why this book is cause? It has its own effect, own result. Clear? This book is cause because it has its own effect. Therefore, this book be named cause. This book is effect because this book arises from its own cause. Therefore, the book is cause and effect. Clear? Okay. That means those are synonyms. Then form, non-institutive formation, then consciousness. The form we can divide into how many types? Two types. There's a two types. We have a two categories. The form. So before we go in, all conditioned phenomena only two types: form, non-institutive formation, consciousness. When you think, when you see a words, say form, that's mean the meaning. Form mean the things depend on four elements. Clear? The things can be books, table, house, whatever. The thing which is arise, which is emerge from how many elements? Four elements that we can call form. What are the four elements? Earth, water, fire, air. Sa, chu, me, lung. Can you say sa, chu, me, lung? Sa, chu, me, lung. Earth, water, fire, air. Four elements. Why, the form emerges from primary cause is elements. Based on the four elements, all form emerge. Think about, behind TBC there are four, few big trees. Let's just imagine one big tree. I think everybody has seen, big trees somewhere. And this moment, the big tree is so big. We can say big, right? It's big. The tree which we seeing now is a very big, but 40 or 50 years ago, the tree was quite small. 100 years ago, the tree was just bush, small piece of bush, right? Bush, or like small sprout. Then, let's say in another 110 years ago, the tree which we see now, and that time the tree was look like very tiny seeds. Tiny seed, right? Tree seed. Then seeds grow, become sprout. Then tree becomes so huge. Then the root of the tree is the seeds, right? The seeds is the root of the tree. The seeds. We just think about the seed is so tiny, very small seeds. When you open the seeds, there's four elements. There's a earth, which is the hard part. There's a water, because the moisture. When you rub strongly, you can see there's a warmness. Is a part of the fire, right? Then if you live there, the seeds move little bit here and there. That means there's a air. That means all form or body. For example, our body right now is huge. So when we are in mother womb, like this, a baby, then first week, very tiny. First day, like a small particle. During the first conception time, small particle. When you open the particle, it's become more small, more finally you can find there's the root is the five elements. That means all form depend on five elements. Form, right? Form. Then form has only two types. What are they? External and internal form. What does mean external and internal form? The meaning of external inner mean? What the meaning of external, internal? Hello, everybody. Yeah. Which, conjoined with the consciousness, conjoined with the mind, conjoined with the feeling, the form which is conjoined with the feeling, we can call internal form. Not conjoined with the consciousness or mind, we can call external. Right? Yeah. Then, the internal form, how many types? 5. Okay. Form has 2 types, internal and external. Internal means the form which is conjoined with the consciousness, inner form. The form is not really conjoined, not associated with the consciousness, we can call external form. For example, the book. When we tear the book doesn't have any pleasant, unpleasant feeling, right? If somebody pinch you, what kind of feeling will you have? Pain. Really? Right? Why we feel pain? This is skin, right? Skin is a form. But if somebody pinch you, somebody like pinch a needle, you feel unpleasant feeling. You feel hurt because it is form, but it's conjoined with the feeling, conjoined with the consciousness. Right? Therefore, inner has 5 types. What are they? Eye sense faculty. Yeah, that means 5 senses. That means there are 5 faculty, 5 organs, 5 faculties, 5 senses. Right? 5 faculties are inner form. How many types of external form? There are 6. What are they? Visible form, sound. Hello everybody, I cannot hear from this side. Okay, yeah, it's good. Visible form, sound. I think the sound sources, right? Sound sources, then smell sources, taste, tactility or textures. This means there's 5. So the mental object, right? Mental object. So visible form, sound, smell, taste, texture are quite simple. You must, do kind of review. It's very simple, and there's no difficult. So today we start from the mental object. Here, look at, we learn about permanent, impermanent. Therefore, all conditioned phenomena impermanent, is subject to change. Subject to change. If you really aware, if you really realize all conditioned are subject to change, when something you can see change, totally change, then you won't get upset, you won't get angry. For example, so let's say, we didn't use, glass and mirror for 2 years. After 2 years, you wash your face in the mirror. What you can see is total change, like more wrinkle, for me like red, some of you like white, gray. What do you feel? What kind of feeling will you have? Wow, I'm old. You feel upset. You feel disappointment. At the beginning, since today, subject to change. When you say your face changed, your body has changed, your house, everything has changed, you don't have a upset, you don't have a disappointment because it's subject to change. Then, changing a relationship, changing a business and position, everything will change. Nothing remains as a permanent, eternal, subject to change. Then, based on knowing subject to change, mainly you think, me will change, my body will change, my life will change. At the end, I will die. My family will die. Everything will disappear. Am I right? There's therefore impermanence. Then, conditioned phenomena. All phenomena depend on causes and condition. Cause and condition, you must know. For example, in the gross level, our daily life, we wish to cook pasta. Wish to cook pasta, wish to eat pasta. Right? That means you wish to be happy. You wish to achieve happiness, just wishing. You're not really, putting effort. Go to market, buy pasta, and cook and eat. Right? You are not going to market to buy what? Pasta. Because we are not really going to attend the Dharma class. The Dharma class is look like a shopping mall, pasta. We are not really going to buy pasta. Second, we buy the pasta from the shop, from market. We buy. That means we attend Dharma class, TBC, ABC, Dopenling, Dharamsala, Nepal, Bhutan. We attend Dharma class. We went mini shopping mall. We buy all kinds of pasta. We store in our house. But you feel hungry. You are stupid, right? You buy all the pasta, spend a lot of money. You never cook. You feel hungry. When you feel hungry, what do you do? What you do? You don't cook the pasta, you go market, buy another thing. But you haven't cooked. Then exactly, we attend many classes, we attend many teaching. When you feel unhappy, you never thought, I'm not happy, I must apply the Dharma, which is I listen from here and there. I must apply the Dharma, which I study here and there. We never think, today I'm not happy. I want to see Rinpoche, I want to see Lama, I want to see temple, do pray, chanting. You never think, I must apply the Dharma, which is I learn TBC, ABC, in Robenling, whatever, Nepal, Bhutan. We never think, right? I'm not happy. What should do? Go to temple. That means, wish to cook pasta, go to the shop, buy the pasta and cook and eat. Attend the teaching, study Dharma and apply and practice. Right? Then, at the end, you feel satisfaction. You have a satisfaction. You feel satisfied. Then you feel happy. Then when you are not happy, you must know why I'm not happy. Because, I'm lacking this and that. Then you must apply. Therefore, simple, in order to eat the pasta, we need to buy, we need to pay, we need to eat. Otherwise, you cannot have the sense of happiness about eating pasta. Right? Same thing. We wish to achieve Buddhahood. We wish to achieve Nirvana. The Nirvana, the Buddhahood must come from causes and condition. The happiness which we are seeking also depend on causes and condition. The suffering which we wish to avoid, wish to eliminate, they also depend on causes and condition. If you don't want suffering, what you need to do? Don't want suffering, what you need to do? You need to minimize the causes and condition of the suffering. At the end, finally, you need to eliminate the causes and condition of the suffering. Then no more suffering, right? For example, you feel so cold, then you know why I'm so cold, I feel so cold. Why? Then you notice there's an air condition of the, what do you call this? Of the, not remote control, of the electric aircon, no more cold, then you feel warm. Therefore, look at, as a Buddhist, sometimes we believe in miracle, we believe something happened miraculously. Nothing happened in our life, miracle things. At least if you need to put effort. Therefore, when you study cause and condition phenomena, then you must know my happiness depends on causes condition. My suffering also arises from cause and condition. Don't want suffering, minimize the cause and condition of suffering. One happiness, generate, collect all the cause and condition of happiness. Then external, internal. The next, we need to study about the mental object. Mental object, okay? Sound perceived by air consciousness, right? The visible object, eye consciousness. Smell, nose. Texture by the physical, like a taste by tongue. Tactility by physical body, physical senses. Right? There is some form. There are another form which is there, but we cannot perceive through our five sensation, five consciousness, which is, for example, the subtle particle. Right? Subtle particle, even though when you use the microscope, you can see, subtle particle, but it is not that subtle aspect, particle. There's a more subtle particle is there, but we cannot perceive through our five sensation. Now we study, short time for the mental object. Okay, please open your book if you have a book. If you don't have a book, don't worry, you just listen. What's the page number of the chapter 8? Then 119. Did I give you homework? Huh? Huh? Okay. I just gave you homework. You give a note, right? That's it. Finish. Yeah. So whenever you have a little free time, open the book and study. If you are so busy, it's okay. Mental object form. That means you must know form, which is, arise from four elements. Some form is very gross. It can perceive by five sensation. Some form is so subtle, so small, it cannot perceive by five sensation. It must perceive by the sixth mind. The sixth mind, okay? Number 6. Mental object form, chapter 8, page number 119. In general, as discussed earlier, there are two types of form. Those that are object of sense consciousness and those that are object of mental cognition. That's right. There's been two types of form. We are not talking about inner and external. Generally, gross and subtle. Within the twofold classification, mental object form belongs to second categories, which is object of mental cognition. For example, second category. For example, when a gross material form, such as a composite mass of particle, is reduced to its parts, it becomes what? Progressively subtler until it transcends the domain of sensory cognition. For example, when I show you, like small grain of like a rice grain or mustard seeds, you can see it, right? Then I divide into two, I cut into two, break into two, still we can see, right? Still we can see. When I break a seed, a rice seed, break into two, then I show one part, still you can see. We can see through our eyes. That part also break into two, still you can see. That part we break into 1,000 pieces, still, if you have a good eyesight, still you can see. Now, I think I don't think anybody can see. Right? Then, the subtle, quite subtle piece of the rice grain, if I still break into million pieces, billion pieces, then it's become beyond the eye consciousness. That's why you can say here. For example, when a gross mental form, such as a composite mass of particle, is reduced to its parts, it becomes progressively subtle until it transcends the domain of sensory cognition. But even then, it does not become a non-material entity. Clear? That means something be form. Something is a form. For example, the rice, piece of rice. Piece of rice or the mustard seeds. It's a form. Doesn't matter how much you can break, you can divide. Always be material. Gross or subtle. It cannot become consciousness. It's become more subtle, more subtle, more subtle. Finally, totally, become beyond our cognition of the eyes consciousness. Become progressively subtle until it transcends the domain of sensory cognition. But even then, it does not become a what? Non-material entity. Is so important. Form, doesn't matter how much you can divide. It always be material. It cannot become non-material entity. Since such a form cannot be any of the five sensory object or the five sensory faculty, it has to be posited as a mental object form. Right? When it becomes so small, that it cannot be object or cannot be any of the five sensory object. Right? Clear? Also, like a form. Then, like sound. When we listen to music, right? We can listen to music. Let's say we perceive a sound. Sound. The sound has a certain duration. Let's say you listen 1 minute music. Finish, right? Then you divide the sound into two. Still you can hear. Then you can divide more and more. Finally, you cannot hear anymore. But it still remains as a material. Right? It is so important. That means form cannot be transformed as a consciousness. The consciousness cannot be transformed as a mind. Mind always be mind, form always be form. For example, just a very small piece of paper. Let's say very small piece of paper, we just burn this paper in fire, it's become what? Ash, it's become black. Then you just rub, right? The black piece of thing is become dust. Then you just say, phew. The dust go in the space. It's become subtle. But in the space, it remains as a form. Right? Form. Therefore, all this universal, right? Universal, you see, we can say in the stars, sun and moon, how they come being to exist. The universe is not big as now as the beginning. As billions of years ago, universal, the origin of universal is just simple, subtle particle. Okay, what we call in the Vajrayana, particularly is mentioned later in the Kala Chakra teaching, we name the space particle. Space particle. billions of trillions of years ago, this totally empty space. Empty. There's no any gross body, no gross form. This empty space is full of what? Subtle particle, no gross form. Then due to different condition, then one particle stick into another one particle, then become bit subtle, right? Then 2, 4, 500 billion, then slowly the subtle particle become more bigger. Then this we call the universe. The origin of the universe, this world, the planet, the origin of this planet, just simple, subtle particle. That means, look at it's a really a circle. It's now is paper. After it is born, it become black piece. When you rub, it become dust. You just throw in the space. It remains as a particle. Then after 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, billions years later, it becomes some other phenomena. Right? For example, our head. This is my head. This is your head. When somebody burn our head, it become ash. Then become dust. Then remain in the space for many years. Slowly, the atom, the particle can become bone, can become blood, can become flesh, can become tree, can become anything. That means form always remains as a form. It cannot be transformed as a consciousness. Therefore, we Buddhists believe in next life, in the previous life. Because we have a physical body. This body made of what? Made of bone, flesh, blood, nerves, so many things, heart and lung. Everything come from where? Parents. Parents come from the gene, you can call the sperm, whatever, come from there. But we have a mind, consciousness. Our consciousness is not coming from our parents. It is not emerged or transformed from the form of metal. It's come from the previous consciousness. The previous life consciousness come from the previous life. The consciousness always remains as a consciousness. Therefore, we believe into next life. Because form cannot transform as consciousness. Consciousness cannot transform as a form. This is the main reason to believe in next life. Therefore, we say, it's not a non-material entity. Since such a form cannot be any of the five sensory object or five sensory faculty, it has to be posited as a mental object form. This means material object form is a form but cannot perceive by five senses. Only perceived by what? Mental, the sixth mind, mental consciousness. How we can perceive the subtle, how we can realize the subtlest. I'm not comfortable to say subtlest, I guess subtle. I'm not going to say, I personally, I'm not comfortable, not convinced to say subtlest, smallest. Can you say smallest form? Can you say smallest? Small, smaller, smallest. Can you say smallest form? Can you say? Anybody wants to say? Huh? No? Where's Emma? Huh? Why we cannot say subtlest? How do you know it can be divided? It can be divided or not, still questionable. For example, the thing is so small. So we have what you call ox, cut the X, we have X is so big. When you try to cut the subtle particle by X, you cannot. Particle is so small, if you try to cut, it not going under the X, right? It's so small. But how we know we divide or we cannot divide. We're not sure. Why I'm not comfortable to say subtlest. If I really believe in the subtlest form, subtlest kind of material, there's no subtle smaller than this one, right? It's become subtlest, smallest. It's the smallest thing in the world. Then we have to say there's nothing smaller than this. We have to say. If we say that way, then if somebody asks question, then what made of it? English use made of it. This book is made of paper, right? The golden earring, ring made of gold. The subtlest form made of what? Made of what? 4 elements or not? If the subtlest form made of 4 elements, then 4 elements must be subtlest than the combination, right? Combination. Therefore, still not sure that the subtlest can say or not. But we can say, particle, subtle particle is subtle, but subtlest I'm not sure. Right? Form. Therefore, form always remains as a form, cannot be transformed as a consciousness. Okay, this is the definition of the mental object form. How many types of the mental object? That means you are not really reading the book.
5 types.
Without looking book, can you tell me what are the 5? Okay, can you see page number 120? Number 1, form emerging from a process of deconstruction. Number 2, form of open space. Number 3, vows derived through the rites. 4, imagine from the meditative expertise. That means there are 5 types of what? Mental object. Clear? These 5 types of mental object can be perceived by only mental consciousness, not of the any 5 senses, 5 faculties. Now, the example number 1 of this form emerging from the process of deconstruction referred to subtle particles that emerge from the process of mentally deconstructing coarse material form, which can be perceived by the mental cognition alone. Right? Mental cognition alone. That means the subtle particle, the subtle form can be perceived by only the mental, not the 5 senses. Now, as a homework, you must remember what are the 5. Each of example is mentioned. Okay? Next, we jump to the 4 elements. Chapter number 9. The causal primary elements. At the beginning, look at. In many Buddhist texts, when presentation on material form is made, is done so in terms of the twofold division of the causal primary elements and derivative forms. That means, element has 2 types. What are they? Causal primary elements and derivative form that originate from the primary elements. That means 2 types of elements. What is it presented as the aggregates of the form? It refers to anything that is capable of materiality, everything included into 4 great elements. 4 great elements. What are they? Again, 5 elements, 4 elements. What are they? Earth, then water, air, right? 4 elements. There's are 2 types, 2 division. Now you go at end of the, like a page. In general, such a text relate numerous ways in which is the primary elements act, the cause of their derivative form. For example, there are speak of the following 5 types mainly. What are they? Generating cause, supporting cause, cause, dependent cause, and cause. When you think about how the 4 elements cause for the form, there's 5 different ways you can say it cause. Number 1, generating cause. What does mean generating cause? The primary elements are the generating cause, in that if the primary elements do not exist, no derivative form will emerge. That means derivative form depend on what? 4 elements. Right? Therefore, look at, if their primary elements do not exist, what happen? Then no derivative form exists. Therefore, the 4 element is the emerging cause for the derivative form. What does mean? Number 2. The number 2 is supporting. Okay, derivating and supporting. The primary elements are the supporting cause, because in that, without the support of the primary elements, then what happened? Derivative resultant form cannot be separately arise. That means there's 5 different way to cause. Right? Then, what's the number 3? Stabilizing. The primary elements are the stabilizing cause, in that if the primary element degenerate, then form caused by them will also decline. That's by the supportive. Then number 4, dependent. The primary elements are the dependent cause, in that it's due to the primary elements that the temporal stage of the resultant derivative form arise in succession. Therefore, we go dependent. Number 5, enhancing cause. The primary elements are the enhancing cause, in that if the primary elements are enhanced, then the resultant form also dispel enhancement. Right? That means, look, it's so important. 4 elements can have, can cause 5 different ways. Now, these 5 you can relate it with your daily, health, healthy and unhealthy issue. Healthy unhealthy. If you need a healthy body, then what you need? You need a healthy 4 elements. Right? Because 4 elements is so important for the physical body, not for the mind. Therefore, supporting, stabilizing, enhance, generating. That means there's 5 different ways to cause to the derivative result. So why we call, great elements? Now you can just jump into, page number 127. With regard to the etymology of the term primary elements, primary then elements. Sanskrit word called Buddha, right? Primary elements are so called because when various types of form arise, that emerge from them. We have many types of form. All of them emerge from where? From 4 elements. They are called primary. Alternatively, they are called primary elements since such as primary elements synthesis. That means that is the primary element that brings such as entities into existence. There's a 2 different mean primary elements. Okay, here what you need to learn, there are, all forms, all material things depend on 4 elements. 4 elements can be caused to the form. There's a 5 different way to cause. Then second, you need to learn what does mean the meaning of primary elements, etymology. Next, 4 element has a unique function. Right, unique function. That's what great. Look at the next sentence. As for the meaning of the phrase, great elements. First we call Buddha. Sanskrit that Buddha, elements. Then great elements in Sanskrit, Maha Buddha. Maha means great. Maha Buddha mean elements. Great element. Why we name great? Why not enough to say just element? These elements are called great because each of them, earth, water, fire, and wind, possesses the great force of the function of supporting, then bonding, nurturing, moving. Right? Supporting by what? Earth. Then water, bonding. Fire, maturing. Wind, moving. Look at, therefore, when you look at a single one form as a whole, it's just one piece of subtle form. If you study very closely, you can find it has 4 elements. 4 elements, right? For example, all form has a certain heaviness, lightness. For example, but when we check the heaviness of the potato, flour, we doesn't care much, right? When you check the heaviness of the diamond, you need a very sensitive what do you call? Veining, very sensitive veining, right? That means when you put small diamond, it can show the heaviness. When you take little piece of diamond, also you can see the heaviness or lightness. Therefore, why the diamond, gold, form, any kinds of form has a heaviness. Because it has a earth elements, right? Then you can see, when you break the diamond, it's become many pieces. Before break, there's a one piece. It exists as a one piece because of the water elements. It bound together. Then mature. What does mean mature? When you put the diamond for many years, it cannot become bigger, right? It's the same become size, remain size, remain same. What we call mature. Mature means become bigger. Right? Bigger. That means when you stick one diamond into one, we need certain elements. We need a water element. Without other element, it cannot be compound. It cannot become more bigger. Like, for example, we put a seed. There's a soil, there's a heat, there's a air, but no water cannot be mature. Right? Therefore, 4 elements is because greatness. This means supporting, bonding, maturing, moving. exposition of the 5 irrigants, for example, this is the unique function of the each of the elements. So I asked you to do this as a homework, right? Now you just open, turn page number 131. There's a chart, right? Name, essential function, nature, then function. For example, earth, primary elements, was the essential nature, solidary. It become hard part, because soil, earth. In function, supporting. Water, primary elements, was the essential nature, moistens. Function, bonding. Fire, warm. The function, maturing. Wind, primary elements, lightness and mobility. Function, increasing. That means the first chapter is the name, chart is name. Second chapter is the nature. Therefore, you must differentiate water and water elements, fire and fire elements. But when you check, a piece of ice cream, ice. When you check ice, you cannot see there's a fire. You cannot see it's cold. There cannot be fire. But it has a fire elements. How do you know? If you put ice cream in the glass, you shake 10 minutes, then the ice become melt and warm. Therefore, ice cream has a fire elements. Cannot see the fire. When you check the piece of fire, it's a small piece of fire. When you check, you cannot see water, but it has a water element. Therefore, the piece of fire always exists as a piece. For example, look at let's say apple, right? When you put the apple in the table, it's just become one piece of apple. If you keep the apple for 10 years, apple become very dry. Still keep continuously 100 years, then what will happen? Piece of apple become kind of dust, totally spoil, become dust. Why it become dust? 1 year or 10 years ago it was piece of apple, now it's become dust. Because within the apple there's a water, the water decompose. That's why slowly there's no anymore the water function, no anymore. That's why it's become many pieces. This means it show apple has a water, it has a fire. Therefore, it has a lot of, when you keep the apple in one place, it can change slowly. This is a function, nature, and name. Okay, please remember the name, essential nature, and function. Okay, next, please turn on page number 133. Express so fast. Question. That means 4 elements always function together. It cannot function separately, singly, alonely. It cannot function singly. Therefore, how do the 4 great elements always manifest together without separation from one another? Without water, there cannot be fire, or water elements. So water elements is we talking very subtle level. Respond, because there are characteristic and the function are absorbed in every compound. That means characteristic and function. Please, you remember that the two meaning. Their characteristics and function are absorbed in every compound. Thus, the characteristic of the earth exists in the soil, compost, mass, because they appear to perception. If the compound lacked the water element, then any gold, silver, and lead are so on existing within the world, not melt, right? Not melt. That means it's mainly showing a proof. Each of the phenomena combined with the other three elements. For example, you see here, the characteristic of the earth exists in a solid, composed mass because they appear to perception. If that compound lacked water element, then any gold, silver, and lead and so on existing within it would not melt. If there's no water element, it cannot be melt. Moreover, if it was devoid from the water, it would fall apart. If there is no water, there is always remain in the pot. It cannot be combined together. So, again, here you must know how and why four elements function together. Cannot be separate. Okay, function. Now, then in between is a lot of quotation. Now we just jump into page number 138. Because all of you is very advanced and very wise, intelligent. No. Because I thought, if we just go sentence by sentence, no use. Page number 139, in the last paragraph, there's a question. Question by, the non-Buddhist to Buddha Shakyamuni. O Gautama, on what does earth depend? The answer? No. Brahma asked question to Buddha. Gautama, right? O Gautama, on what does earth depend? Brahman. Earth depend on water. Gautama, on what does water depend? Brahma. Water depend on wind. O Gautama, on what does wind depend? Brahman. Wind depend on space. O Gautama, on what does space depend? Brahma. You are now going too far. Buddha says, oh Brahma, is too much. Buddha says, you are going too far. Because look at, space has no support. It has no appearance and that cannot be objectified. That means, look at four elements. Number one, earth. Earth depends on water. Now, if you look, it makes sense, right? Water. Water depends on wind. Wind depends on space. Now, you're talking about mainly how the planet, this universe emerged. First, there's a space, empty space. Then there's a earth. Then there's a water. Then there's a fire. That means space depend on, earth depend on water. Water depend on air or wind. Wind depend on space. Space depend on nothing. Because it's space, no need any supportive. Look, that's how the universe, emerged. First there's a empty space, then slowly there's a wind, then there's a water, then there's a earth, then there's a fire. Now exactly look at now where we stay. We stay on the earth. The earth remain on the water, right? Water. How the water exists? The water, earth exists on the air. How air exists? It exists within the space. If there's no space, no air. If there's a air, there must be space. There must be space, then there's a water, then the earth. Let me look at, just think about, right now we are still on one of the planets, Earth, right? But Earth exists where? In the space, in the air. That's why it's moving, right? Moving by force or moving by, what you call, in science, force or gravity. Somehow there's a air, there's a water, there's a space. Then there's a fire. How is emerged? Also, when we were born, also is same level. There's a space, then there's a air, then there's a water, then there's a earth, then there's a heat or warm. Okay, 4 elements. Now, according to Vajrayana here, what's the page number now? 139. Brahma. Then Buddha said at the end, look at Brahma, you are now going too far because space has no support. It has no appearances and cannot be objectified. Right? Then there's a quotation. Now look at the Vajrayana, the next paragraph. Vajrayana texts, such as those of the Kalachakra system, speak of the 5 primary elements. In Sutra, only 4 elements. Vajrayana, 5. What are the 5? Earth, water, fire, wind, and space. Space, right? Space. In Sutrayana, space we cannot count into the elements. Space. Similarly, some medical texts, right? Texts explain 6 external elements. I think you are very familiar with the 6 elements. What are they? Wood, because 4 elements there, right? Within the 4, look at the wood, then earth, water, fire, wind, space. 4 just simply earth, water, fire, wind. 5, space, add space. 6, add wood. Because medical texts, the wood is so important, right? Wood doesn't mean like tree, because TCM medicine or Western medicine or Tibetan medicine, Indian medicine, all medicine mainly depend on what? Herb, right? Herb like tree, plant, so and so. That's why wood is so important. Now, everybody study here, 6 elements, how linked with the medicine. The illness, can you see the line? The illness of the heaviness and the torpor are caused by possession of the primary elements of the earth. When you feel your body is very heavy, there's a earth problem. For example, when you become, heavy, become fatty, you feel very heavy because you have a more earth element. Right? Earth element. Elements are the caused by the possession of the primary elements of the earth entering into flesh and bone. Right? Earth means, for example, we drink, eat too much, all the drink and eating, the energy goes into flesh and bone, then become heaviness. The next one, the illness of heat, illness of the cold, caused by possession of the primary elements of water, entering the blood and lymph. That means if you always drink too much water, then you have become body cold. Then you have a coldness problem. Particularly if you always drink, cold coffee, cold water, cold tea is no good. Your body become too cool. Then slowly you will have a kidney problem. Many people have a kidney problem because they drink too much cold water like cold things. If you stay, in Singapore, look at, I can see after 50, maybe after 40, many people has a knee problem. I can see. I always observe when they walk to the MRTs, like stair, even the young people prefer to go to elevator, they don't want to walk. I observe when they walk, it's always like limp. Even though young people has a knee problem. Why? They drink and eat a lot of cold drink, cold food. Sit in the air conditioner for a long time. It's really bad for your knee and your hip. It's a lot of coolness. The heat. The illness of the heat is caused by the position of the primary elements of the fire entering in the warmth of the body. The illness of the wind is caused by the position of the primary elements of wind entering into the blood. The illness of the disturbed mental state, such as hallucination, caused by the position of the space entering into mind. What does it mean? Yeah. Very interesting, okay? Because disturbing, right? The illness of disturbed mental state, such as hallucination. For example, is very simple. You think how is come? Very simple. Usually we take a breakfast, lunch. Maybe some of you don't take dinner. Just stop to eat breakfast, lunch. You just check how do you feel. Then you feel you got a lot of disturb in your mind. You feel hungry, want to eat, you cannot eat. You got a lot of disturb. Then slowly look at why we call I'm hungry. Hungry, right? Hungry. In Tibetan we call to. There's another name we call tepa. We never say, when we ask, higher Lama, teacher, are you hungry? We never say hungry. We say, are you like a tepa? Mean, when we eat food, our stomach is full of food and drink. There's no any more space, very little space. When the food digests, then the stomach goes space. When the stomach has an empty space, it's full of what? Air. When you have a lot of air in your stomach, air is moving within the stomach, then you feel hungry. Hungry. And the air slowly goes into your channel, nervous system. Then you have a lot of disturbance. You cannot sleep. You cannot think properly. When you're so hungry, you cannot think too much, right? You cannot think properly. After you eat something, you feel relaxed. Then you're able to think. Air go into your stomach. Slowly, the air, wind go into your nervous system. That's why somebody has a short temper. Very short temper. Because it has a lot of wind in their body. The wind, moving around all parts of your body. Also, the wind slowly moving too much or too fast in your brain, then you're really going to get crazy. There is mentioned, what's the 5 elements related to your sickness. Okay, so today we stop here. Since tomorrow, the next class, we study about a little bit non-stated formation. So please, do revision about the 4, 5, 6 elements, and also the mental object, how many types. Then also how the 4 element cause to derived the form. The next we study about what? Chapter, must be chapter 10, right? 10 is about what? Formation. Next we study about non-stated formation, then cause and effect, then unconditioned phenomena. So please, read little bit about no institute formation, cause and effect, then unconditioned. It's quite easy. Don't you think so? Huh? I think most of you received the Manjushri initiation, right? You must have. Huh? Huh? So, sorry? Yes, please.
Problem with the concept of space.
Space.
Because what I learned last time, an example of impermanent phenomena is like uncomposed space, open space. Now you talk about space. Now is given as an example, as a type of form. So I have one problem with that. And then the second question will be, if you say that there's a space, which is a type of form, which is a mental object, what kind of mind is capable of perceiving this kind of space?
Actually, when we say 6 elements, the space added. 4, then 5, if they add the space. 6, they add wood, right? The 5, they name as a, elements. It's not the ultimate element, they name elements. The space we never include into conditioned phenomena. Never. But space, the meaning of space is not, just empty between, this house and that house. Therefore, you must get the definition of the space. Okay. No. Also, space and, empty of between this house, this wall, space of this two wall is different.
No, I'm talking about uncomposed space, which is like a space which is not everywhere. It's not conditioned by an object.
Yeah. Actually, all spaces always be unconditioned phenomena. There's not composition space. But this house is the conditioned phenomena, is a composed phenomena. But the space of house is, it is uncomposed. For example, form is conditioned phenomena. Emptiness of the form is unconditioned phenomena. Form and emptiness. That means house and the space is very similar. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much asking this question. So when we do the dedication prayers,